I'm just doing the intro thing again, just to make sure that everything goes live like it should do right about. Let's see, 3, 2, now. There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream where we have a very significant little bit of news to discuss. I say very, I mean very, because, oh my lordy, I did not see this one coming. So, specific in terms of sources, we're going to go with the Ben Jacobs tweet. It is also being reported by Alex Crook. It is also being reported by The Athletic, which means that it is clearly incredibly close. So, a little bit of a quick dive into this. Let's have a talk about what the main story is, which is Leeds United are closing in on a deal for James Trafford. This is actively closing in. It's not just Leeds United have an interest and something might happen and something might not happen and all this kind of nonsense. No, Leeds are actively closing in. Trafford, in addition to that, has also indicated that the club that he would like to join is Leeds United. This is an absolutely huge little bit of news for us because we were looking at the situation recently and just kind of going, well, we don't know whether we're the side that he wants. If Newcastle want him, then he might want to go there because they showed interest last season. If another Champions League club shows that they want him, then maybe he'll go there instead. None of that seems to have happened, and Trafford seems to have indicated that Leeds United is his choice of move. Can also reveal the parties discussing a release clause within the fast-moving negotiations. This we all sort of expected because, well, obviously he'd have a release clause because he is a very good goalkeeper. Didn't really expect him to not have a release clause, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. In addition to that, Newcastle United have not held any recent talks or placed a bid. The last conversations occurred when Trafford was discussed as an option when City explored Tonali. A little bit further down, if agreed, the clause would be for specific clubs or circumstances within Trafford's Leeds contract, so that would effectively be a release clause but Man United aren't allowed to trigger it, or a release clause but it's exclusive to Manchester City for this amount of money. That would be a genuinely very interesting move, and I think James Trafford would be possibly one of the best moves possible for Leeds United this window. Got a few little more notes. So, we are reportedly in direct talks with Manchester City, as opposed to it just being a case of we've had a chat with Trafford and Trafford wants a move. This is significantly bigger than any of the times that someone will go, Leeds have an interest in, or Y club are exploring a move for. This is far more concrete, far more firm, far more secure, that there is clearly a little bit of progress going on here. There is a little bit of movement, and the fact that he is leaning in our direction is, I would say, possibly the biggest win of this article, because it's genuine. The fact that he is leaning towards Leeds United is something that took me by surprise. The fact that Newcastle are now also effectively out of the race is also massive. This is being reported slightly differently from different outlets, and I'll just run you through what the sort of reports are. So Ben Jacobs' side says that Newcastle have not held any recent talks or placed a bid. Conversations last occurred when Trafford was discussed as an option in the Tonali deal and all that kind of stuff, which I thought was kind of interesting. Then you get to what David Ornstein was saying, which was Newcastle United also interested, and they have made club-to-club contact, which has a sort of indication behind it that Newcastle want to be a part of this fight. However, the article itself didn't say that. The article itself instead said, The Athletic reported earlier this week that Trafford was Newcastle's primary option, but they're no longer considering a move, which is weird. How is someone your primary option, but you don't want a move? Genuinely incredibly bizarre, the fact that that sentence can exist, and someone that wrote that sentence can go, yeah, that all adds up. He's their best option, in spite of the fact that they don't want him. Incredibly weird. Trafford was discussed during talks over Tonali, which we now know, but they're now looking at alternatives such as Zion Suzuki and Carl Rushworth, which is fair enough. I completely understand them doing that. They need to get a goalkeeper at some point, which would be absolutely wonderful. And then you got the bit that Baron Cross added in, which I think is sort of fun. So when I initially read this article, I had not read the Baron Cross bit, but now I am going to read the Baron Cross bit because it's an adjusting story. It's adapting, it's growing, it's evolving, and this is ultimately where we want to be as a club right now, making moves like this, which is fantastic. Oh my god, my arms hurt. Sorry, they are still very sunburnt. Hold on, can we just? There we go. There's the burn line. Ow. What Baron Cross added was that effectively Trafford wants to play far more regularly than he did at City, and he would be the undisputed number one at Elland Road. It would be a case of we'd have to throw so much money in his general direction that it wouldn't make sense to even consider anyone else having minutes in that role, aside from the occasional cup match and all that kind of thing. We'll also lean on the platform we gave DCL and Stack in their return to the national team, so we're a pretty good platform for players that are looking to break through. And generally, the idea is we're hoping that Trafford can be a long-term solution between the sticks, as opposed to what seems to have happened with our goalkeeping options, where it's sort of like, we've got Meslier. No, I'll start with Casilla, actually. We've got Kiko Casilla, but he's a racist nutjob, so he got shufted along for Illan Meslier. Illan Meslier stuck around for a bit, but Illan Meslier made a lot of mistakes, which meant, okay, Joel Robles, let's see if you're any good. Right, okay, no, maybe not, you move on. Right, okay, that hasn't worked, back to Meslier. Shit, hasn't worked again. Darlow, in you come. Right, Darlow wants to go. Perry? No. Okay. And then that cycle's continued, and we're only now at the point where we're potentially going to make a move that is one that will stick. And if we do secure James Trafford, he will be a goalkeeper at Leeds United for a long time. And the whole thing about potentially having... where were my words? There they go. The whole thing about potentially having a release clause and all that kind of stuff, that's fine. That's not a thing that I'm personally concerned about. Instead, that release clause part of the conversation is something that is normal. And I know is going to spook a few people, but we know that that happens in a lot of contracts, especially when it is someone like a James Trafford, who that interest is incredibly strong, and it's one that we very much want to happen. And I think getting him to stick around would be even more important than signing him in the first place. But we'll see how that one goes. Anyway, I'm going to have a quick skim through the comments, then we'll have a quick hop back to some newsy bits, but I've got a little bit of an addition to what I think is going on behind the scenes right now, which is quite good. Jason O'Keefe says it's being reported also on Sky and TalkSport, which is absolutely fantastic. The fact that it's being reported all over the place is kind of what we need. Don't go out, you'll stop all the traffic. Thank you, I do realise this. Because my face, it hurts. Hello, Hannah Bone, and you did say that Trafford doesn't want Newcastle. That's a pretty damn good call. He removed Man City from his Instagram. Did he? That's very early, which says that something is very, very close to happening. Rich thinks it sounds like he only wants Leeds. It does sound very, very close to being Leeds and only Leeds. And if it is potentially anywhere else, I would be very, very surprised at this rate. I'd start following Trafford on Insta, but I don't want to jinx it. That's a good point. Yeah, I'm gonna not go for that yet. That feels like that would be a little bit early, but you know what? I'm hopeful. Sign of the season if this one gets done. Absolutely, it would be Alan. I'm assuming Trafford wants first-team football and we're the only ones to guarantee that. I think Newcastle would also guarantee it. It's just a case of he might be leaning in our general direction anyway. Which, you know what, I'm not going to complain about even a little bit. Adam Pope's just tweeted away for a while now, but in the meantime it seems like progress being made by Leeds, being made as Leeds look to strengthen with Trafford, Brandt and Charles all in the mix. Still catch you in Dublin. We've not got Popey tweets for a while, which is a little bit of a shame. How could we afford cover? We need two keepers, not one. Do we need two keepers? Because we do have cover. We do have Lucas Perry. And to be fair, if Lucas Perry goes out, there's a chance that the funds that we get from that we can use to bring someone in. We'd still need a third keeper though, wouldn't we, if Perry's being loaned out? We don't know if Perry would be loaned out if it was just Trafford. And to be fair, is second choice Cairns the worst thing? It's not terrible. And we might be in a position where we're starting to trust Rory Mahady. It's very difficult. Definitely need another keeper, but that one will probably be a free-ish pickup. Yeah, it wouldn't be expensive. I had seen something around potentially Jason Steele, I think his name was. The one that went over to the US with the England squad that wasn't actually there as a part of the squad, but was there as like the fourth goalkeeper. Because according to FIFA rules, if one of your goalkeepers gets injured when you're on sort of an international tournament, that's fine. You can just call up a fourth because you don't want to be sort of low on keepers. That'd be genuinely insane if it was like, yeah, we've got 2 injured goalkeepers, but we've got no subs, so sod it. No, the fact that you're able to sort of rotate injured goalkeepers makes a lot of sense to me. And to be fair, I think that one would make a lot of sense. I don't know what Steele's contract is looking like, but there is potential with that one. Perry will probably go. I know there's been a lot of rumours, which are maybe just that, but there's likely truth there. Yeah, I think that's potentially the case. If we were to sign Trafford, that says to me that there's very much a sort of... there's an end for Lucas Perry, which, I mean, I like Lucas Perry, but in my opinion, he's not particularly worth all of the money that it would take to, like... you know, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know if I phrased that well. We'll see. But yeah, in addition to that, we've got a little bit of a theory. A little bit of a... it's not like a rumour or anything. It's just, I've got a theory going on right now. And that specific theory is that we may be significantly closer to Trafford than we believe. Because every single other story that has come out about Leeds United in this transfer window has been a case of all of the media are a couple of days behind the curve. Now, if you're having a look at where the curve is, and they are now saying Leeds are incredibly close, you add 2 days of work to that, I think it could be like close. I think we could be far closer than we expect, because at the end of the day, when you're sort of looking at how long it takes to complete these deals, it can take ages, but at the same time, when you're saying he's made his mind up and there's already discussions around individual specifics like release clauses and all this kind of stuff, you're on the brink, I think, which means that it'll be a case of confirmed very, very shortly and wrapped up nice and neat in a bow. I don't know when. That's the confusing part, because this sort of America tour maybe throws things off a little bit. It could be a case that James Trafford never left the US. It could be a case that James Trafford was with the England national team, spent his time hanging out over there, nice little bit of a good time, stuck it out on holiday and knew that there was a potential move on the horizon for him, and his thinking along those lines was, oh, well, I might as well stick around here, you know? Which, if he saw that multiple clubs were heading over to the US to do a tour, one of them being the club that he's potentially going to, there is a pretty damn good chance that he could just make that move happen over in the USA. But then again, that would be a little bit more complicated than when we were on tour in Europe last season, because it being a European tour made it a little bit trickier. Being in the US, it's a far longer... it's weird to call it a commute. It's a far longer trip, which, yeah. And then you've also got to consider the fact that we wouldn't be able to play him on the US tour anyway, mainly because the 3-week break that is mandatory for all players under FIFA's rules. So he effectively finished last season on Saturday, which means that not this coming Saturday, not the Saturday after, but the Saturday after that, he would be able to play a little bit of football, which, let's have a quick look at when that is. He could declare a move before that, just to clarify that. There is every possible chance that he could be able to sort of say, look, right, the move is definitely happening, I'm going to announce everything, etc., 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 and then go back on holiday, because that is what Muharremovich did, I believe. But it's definitely one of those curious ones. Let's have a look. It'd be 19th. The 9th of August is when he would be able to start playing football again, which is... I made a handy graphic for this, actually. Let's have a quick check. There we go. Just pull this across. It was a graphic that I originally meant to post, and I just completely forgot to. So, if we have a look and go over here, there we go. Right, Leeds United's pre-season. We've got Wrexham on the 26th. That one is happening. For some reason, I believed it was at 11 PM. I've now been informed that it is not, in fact, at 11 PM. Leeds v Wrexham. Okay, it's now saying it's to be declared, which is fantastic. Okay. Right, I'm going to fix that according to what the Leeds website says. Then let's hop back and Leeds v Sunderland. Preseason, that is also at that time. Fantastic. Liverpool, 8 o'clock is what I believe the timing is on that one. Fantastic. Then we get back to the UK. And this is where things get a little bit difficult in terms of when we could expect to see James Trafford, because RB Leipzig would be a day too early for him. Would it be a day too early for him, or have I got something wrong here? No, because his final match was on the... Oh, right. RB Leipzig is exactly 3 weeks after James Trafford finished his England duty. Let's assume there was another day or so after that in which he was sort of like, right, okay, I'm still part of the squad, and then I gotta go home and all that kind of stuff. If he's having a 3-week break, that takes him to the 9th of August, which means that he would not be able to play for us against RB Leipzig, which means at that point we would still need some sort of backup players involved in the conversation. The match against Scum that is happening in Ireland, that one he would be able to attend, because that is more than 3 weeks, assuming that he wasn't kept in the England squad for a really, really, really long time, which he won't have been. That would have been genuinely insane for Tuchel and the lads to keep their services for so long, and he would definitely be available for Augsburg, which is, interestingly, the friendly that I'm going to try to get to. So that is, in my opinion, a genuinely pretty good timeline. The fact of the matter is, we legally are not allowed to have him until after these dates. The 2 dates that were allowed him in pre-season are Scum and Augsburg, which is entirely because of the international calendar. There's nothing that we can do about that. It is like a clear set legal requirement. But it's a very, very curious one. Thankfully, the goalkeeper is the position where you can most do this. The goalkeeper is the position where you can most be a little bit flexible and say, right, okay, at the end of the day, you stop shots and you pass to your defenders sometimes. It's very, very, very quick to adapt to a new backline as a goalkeeper, and it's very quick to adapt to a new goalkeeper as a backline. It's harder as the backline to adapt to your keeper because every sort of individual keeper has their individual tendencies, whereas a defensive line is roughly just going to do defensive line things. But it's not a big issue that we'd only have him for 2 matches of pre-season, in my opinion. Perry is still at Leeds, indeed, which makes things sort of fine. I don't hugely have an issue with this. Like, the fact that we've got Perry and he's not gone to Torino, and Torino have started to have a look in other places. At the end of the day, we need a second goalkeeper. And I know that that's a point of conversation that a lot of people don't necessarily like, and they don't like that Lucas Perry is looking like he will be that second goalkeeper for an extended period, but it's got to be someone. And I think Lucas Perry is a good goalkeeper that I think had a little bit of bad luck coming to a team that had, let's be honest, a bit of trauma around bad goalkeeping. And that bit of trauma around bad goalkeeping stuck with us, and is something that we're going to need to work through. And let's be honest, we need Ilham Melier-based therapy at this point. But I think that signing is going to be genuinely fantastic. There are a couple of other bits of news which I will cover off now, because I think they are fairly important. There was a little bit of chat on... I'll do Jack Harrison first. Around Jack Harrison, there is a very, very likely chance that he finds himself at New England Revolution. There we go. Very, very good chance that he goes to New England Revolution. The fee is, quote from Graham Smith, undisclosed, which is a nice way of saying, I don't know. We got no idea. The fee's going to be something. We don't know what that something is, which is, let's be honest, completely fine. No one has a particular issue with the fact that Jackie Haradonna will be on the way out. As much as I like the guy in his peak years, he is not in his peak years anymore. He is comfortably away from those peak years. So hopefully there's a little bit of a sort of get a move on, and at least we're getting a fee for him as opposed to him just going on a fee. On a free. There we go. Thanks, Brain. And additionally, importantly, it gets a big wage chunk off the bill. Let's have a quick look at Capology actually and see roughly what Jack Harrison is on. Because getting that, I imagine Jack Harrison's wage would cover James Trafford's wage. It wouldn't come anywhere near covering the fee. Let's be honest here, that one is not going to happen. Tariq Muharamovic is reportedly on $100,000 a week. But where are you? There we go, Jackie Haradonna, 90 grand a week. Which is insane for a player that is absolutely not anywhere near that standard that we need him to be. Meanwhile, reportedly at Manchester City, James Trafford is on 75. So in theory, we could just give him Jack Harrison's wage, which is net not a loss, which is insane to me. But we could just give him Jack Harrison's wage and say, look, you've still got a 15 grand pay rise. Enjoy that. That'd be quite nice, which is absolutely wonderful. In addition to that, there is a little bit of movement on Julian Brandt. Well, I say a little bit of movement on Julian Brandt. There's a semi-update, and I say semi-update because it's one of those where it's an update but not actually an update. Where Graham Smith has said, Leeds United still on with Brandt pursuit, and hopefully he'll make a decision soon. And hopeful, sorry, Leeds United are being hopeful. I phrased that a little bit badly. Which is sort of what we expected, let's be honest. We all saw that at some point Brandt's going to have to make a decision. That Brandt is going to ideally want to be part of a pre-season training, because if you don't take part in any pre-season training, you are knacked. You will not have the fitness, you will not have the sort of the mindset anymore, you won't be match ready, and you'll just sort of screw yourself if you don't do any form of pre-season, which Julian Brandt at this point has not had. He's been faffing about a little bit with someone from Bayer Leverkusen, I can't remember who, but he's been doing some pre-season stuff to keep his fitness up. But that's a little bit different to learning the tactical shape and formations and fluidity and all that kind of stuff of a club that you are potentially looking at signing for, which means that I think Brandt is going to get a shift on very, very soon. Otherwise, he's going to find himself comfortably behind at whatever team he goes to. Which, if it's us, would be spectacular. But I think, again, if we're having a look at the pre-season schedule, let's be honest, if we sign Brandt, he's not going to be ready for Wrexham because he would need to fly out, he'd need to get everything confirmed, he'd need to make sure he was sort of playing to a decent level. Maybe he'd sort of make an appearance and do a little bit of a wave to all the fans and all that kind of stuff. But he wouldn't be playing, really. Against Sunderland, that would also be a little bit of a stretch shot. He's got another 5 days to do that, but whether or not he plays is very, very sort of difficult to say. And then Liverpool, maybe there's a little bit more of a chance. Maybe there's a little bit of an opportunity for that turnaround. But I still think it's a bit of a push. And I think Brandt might have screwed himself in a couple of ways, mainly by waiting for too long before making his decision. Which I understand, that's fine. It's okay to take a while to make your pick. But at the end of the day, you want to make your pick in something of a timely manner, otherwise you're going to cause yourself some problems. In terms of... In fact, this one's a question for you, right? In the event that we do agree a deal for Julian Brandt, which it's starting to look like we're sort of the club that are a big part of the conversation right now. If we sign Brandt, if we sign Trafford, we have already signed Wilson, if we sign Muharemovic, how do you guys rate that transfer window so far? We'll go in school rating system, so we'll start with A+ and we'll go down to an F. But in the event that we do get the Trafford deal over the line, in the event that we do get the Brandt deal over the line, how are you guys rating it? Because I think that is a very... Let's be completely honest here. 8. I like the thinking, Rich. You've gone with the wrong system, but I like the thinking. But in the event that we get those done, that's frankly a ridiculous start to a transfer window. It is one of the best attacking midfielders in the Premier League last season. It is a very, very, very highly regarded forward that has played for Germany consistently, has a lot of experience, knows what he's doing. It is one of the most promising centre-backs in world football at the moment, which Muharemovic is. There is a reason that he cost that much money, and there's a reason that Juventus had that high of a sell-on clause. And then it is one of the most promising goalkeepers around. I think that as a single transfer window is potentially as good as you can get to begin with. Let's be honest, and I'm not disagreeing with you guys here, there would need to be a few more players. It would be a case of maybe we could do with a number 9. We could probably do with another left-back to act as sort of fill. But with those being... 2 of those being free transfers, just to set that one out, 2 of those costing us no money. Muharemovic being expensive, sure, 34 million quid. but still very, very, very good. And then Trafford will be expensive. Trafford will be like 35, 40 million pounds. I've seen some people say 50. I don't think it'd be 50. But if we get those in, if we get the players that we don't need out, that is one of the best transfer windows that I think Leeds United will have done ever, maybe? I can't think of an individual window that would be that sort of level. And if you compare it with what the window was when we survived the Premier League last time, where we managed to stay up, and then there was no money. And then it was a case of, right, we'll make Jack Harrison permanent. That might make some people smile. We'll finally do Dan James. Yeah, he'll cost £25 million, but you know what? He'll be in the door permanently, I suppose. And then in addition to that, we'll also... what do? We need a left-back. Junior Firpo? Like, if you compare those two windows, oh boy, there are absolutely levels between those transfer windows, and this one would be one of the more ridiculous ones in the club's history, let's be completely honest with you. If anyone can think of an individual transfer window that is better than that, like, I challenge you to pop up with it, because that... what we've done so far is great, and what we are linked with doing right now is even better. And the fact that we're in a position to do that is mind-blowing at the minute. And you know it's good, because even the tap-in merchant is on the case. Even Fabrizio Romano is out here just popping a little bit of a... Leeds United are involved in talks to sign James Trafford, as Newcastle were never involved in the race. This doesn't feel true, because we've been told by multiple sources that they were. This feels like it is very much sort of padding that's been put in there to make Newcastle people feel happy. But you know what? If you're from Newcastle, that's your choice. You made your bad decisions. We're not the ones that have to deal with them. It's up to you. He was offered as an option in June, but Newcastle look at different candidates, and Leeds are leading the race for Man City's goalkeeper. This is the bit that matters to us. Let's be honest here. And I've got no idea why Newcastle are so entangled in this. If Newcastle were never involved, why are you mentioning them so much? Why have you made them such a big part of your conversation? I don't know. It's insane. In fact, let's see what the responses are saying. How do you dump Newcastle for Leeds? It doesn't make any sense. It's his choice, then I still hope the deal comes. That would be because, one, you'd have to live in or near Newcastle, and that one... it's not the most fun. And two, maybe he doesn't like Greggs that much. Maybe he likes Greggs a bit, but he also likes sort of other bits of culture, which is what you get when you play for Leeds United instead. This is a big move, but come on, we've got into a football area where it's only profit clubs are after now. How is this a profit-based thing? I don't know. The comment sections are always insane. I don't quite understand, but that's fine. We also need to move players on for cash, says Hannah Bone. We do indeed, and I think we will get to that as time goes on. It's not going to be a thing that we just forget to do. I think it's a thing that just takes a bit of time. Because players that... It's harder to push a player out than get a player on board, because obviously if you are just like, well, we want rid of this guy because he's not particularly good, other clubs that are looking at making signings will but go, oh, so they're not particularly good, are they? Right, okay. Well, we're not going to sign him then. Which means you end up in this weird cycle of players that aren't top level don't get signed by anyone else, so they stay at clubs that have maybe outgrown them, which, yeah. I'd welcome Firpo back on a free. I think I would also, but I don't know whether I'd trust him at all in the Premier League. And I know that that's maybe a little bit of a sort of switch up from my love of Junior Firpo in the past. But, yeah. I'd go for Frankelino Ju as a striker from Midtjylland in Denmark. I also would. I think Frankelino is a very, very, very good forward. But it's a question of getting him, and there is a lot of fight for that guy. Which, look, I'm just trying to do some Northern Town sass. I don't actually dislike Newcastle. I'm just being a little bit melodramatic, because melodrama's fun sometimes, you know. Had a great curry in Newcastle, very nice, and I hope you enjoyed. What happened to Sam Chambers? I think he's got an injury, but I'm not entirely sure. You would have expected him to be a part of that squad that travelled, but the fact that didn't happen says that either he's looking at a move on loan somewhere, he's looking at a move permanently somewhere, or he's injured. It's one of those three things. I don't particularly know what it is, though, which is a little bit tricky. Karim Adeyemi's joined Barcelona. What? Sorry. What? How the hell did Karim Adeyemi go for 29 million euros? But he's so good. That's insane. But yeah, hopefully, I'm gonna wrap things up in a moment, by the way, because I've got a little bit of cleaning to do. Yeah, I'm gonna be a good house husband today, and I can't go outside because being outside hurts me. So if you've got any questions or anything, chuck them in the chat. But to sum up, Jack Harrison potentially gone to New England Revolution. No, do I stick around for a bit? I might stick around for a bit. But Harrison potentially gone to New England Revolution. Makes sense. I think it's time for him to go. In addition to that, we've got Julian Brandt, who is potentially making his decision in the next few days, which would be a sort of necessity, let's be completely honest here. And then finally on that list, we've got James Trafford, whose choice of club is looking like it is going to be Leeds United, which is fantastic. The fact that we might be getting one of the better goalkeepers in the Premier League on board purely because Man City signed Donnarumma last season by accident is a win for us, I think. I think the fact that he very obviously wants first-team football is another massive positive, because if he didn't, then it'd sort of be like, right, okay, so you've not got the mentality for it. Whereas he very clearly does, because he's consistently like, yeah, I want to be playing football. I kind of want to do my job at my job, as opposed to just sort of hovering around. And the fact that it is, A, reported by absolutely everybody, is a positive. And B, the fact that it's being reported very much as Leeds are closing in on a deal. I'll see what the specific words are. Leeds are advancing in talks, which is one of them things that you kind of say when it's very, very close. Leeds in talks with Man City to sign James Trafford. Again, another sort of Leeds are working to sign him, therefore it is fairly close. Leeds closing in on deal. There was another Leeds have held talks, but Leeds optimistic on James Trafford. All this kind of stuff is very much pointing towards the fact that it is close. And if it does happen, yeah, it'll be a couple of weeks before he plays. And that, in my opinion, is completely fine. That is the norm. That's all good. But for me, this would be the signing of the window for any club in the Premier League. That level of upgrade, going from Carl Darlow to James Trafford, would be not only a sign of ambition, it would be a sign of quality, because you can be ambitious and shit, let's be honest here. But this would be ambition in the way that, yeah, we will happily blow other clubs out of the water and eventually land exactly where we want to, which would be lovely. Yeah, I think Trafford absolutely would walk into the starting 11. We can say it's all hearsay, but when the say is coming from very, very reliable voices, that is unavoidable, in my opinion. But anyway, I'm going to end the stream there because I got some bits and bobs to do. If you enjoyed, please pop a like on it. That'd be massively appreciated, as always. And if you fancy, subscribe to the channel as well. I'm getting very, very close to 8,000 subscribers. I'm only 87 away at the moment, so that'd be wonderful if you could. Hello, Ellen back. You've timed that really badly. Yeah. Like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Also, hype, because that's a thing, I think. That'd be nice. I think. I don't know. I don't understand what hyping is, but please do it. Oh, you can see the sunburn. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you later. Toodaloo, me amigos.